Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Jeff Paul Dolan live show. I am super excited for this one. As I mentioned in all the videos that I did leading up to this show, this is a personal come to realization show for me, and I am super excited because the guest that I have tonight, I read one of his books many years ago, and it introduced me to a paradigm of something that was really holding me back. And after reading his book, I was able to let it go and able to move on to a lot of things that I dreamt about. And so I'm really excited to have a conversation with him today. And as I've shared many times during the leading up to this event, is my guest is Noah St. John. He's author of 14 books and the book of affirmations and get rid of your head trash about money, which I'm really excited to talk about that one. Noah is known as the Power Habits Mentor and is famous for helping entrepreneurs get rid of their head trash and make more money, which is what all of us would like to do, right? Noah is the only author in history to have works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mid-Valley, Nightingale, Conan, and Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. He's also appeared frequently in the news worldwide, including ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, Parade Magazine, Forbes.com, and the Huffington Post. You can now get Noah's new book, Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money, free at sendmeabooknoah.com. And I just went and got it. I highly recommend you to go do the same. So welcome to the show, Noah.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm excited to be here today with you.
Yeah, I'm really thankful that you came here, and I'm really excited to share everybody with the followers that I have, because I just want to start out in sharing a personal story that I read this book, and it was probably about 10 years ago. And in this book, you introduced me to a concept, and I've been doing self-development probably close to 30 years. So I had been doing it a while before reading this book. And you tapped into something that I had never heard before. And once I got introduced to it, it really made me start looking at the relationships we have with some beliefs about things, about how we've been conditioned and growing up. And so what you introduced me to was giving myself permission to succeed more than my parents. And that was a massive shift, because and I didn't even realize how much that was holding me back. So, on this show, I like to talk about with my guests is the hero's journey, basically where you've come from, what happened, and what turned you around to be putting out great wisdom like you do. So if you could share that a little bit, and then more specifically, if you could get into how you came to discover that thing about giving yourself permission to actually be more successful than your parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been quite a journey, Jeff. And so just to give you a little background, and for the folks watching, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. Now, I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. In my case, I grew up in a little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which just happens to be one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure. So all I remember growing up was in my family, all these feelings of lack and fear and poverty and not enoughness. Meanwhile, right down the road, there was this great abundance and wealth. And so it was very confusing for a young kid like me, because, they always say, people say, well, what's the secret of success? Well, the secret of success is hard work. Well, I saw my parents working really hard and they never had anything. So I'm like, wait a minute, that's not the secret at all, because my parents are working hard and they don't have anything. Meanwhile, down the street, there's people that don't seem to work so hard and have lots of things like, I don't know, clothes and food and stuff like that we didn't have. And I was like, this is really weird. So, I hated that life of poverty. I hated that life of not enoughness that I grew up with. And seeing that wasn't the only way to live, because, there's a lot of people, you hear these stories all the time. Speakers get up on the stage and they say, well, we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor because we were so happy. I'm like, dude, we freaking knew we were poor, because my mother reminded us every freaking day that we were poor. And it's like, oh my God. So Yeah, we were poor and we knew we were poor because she said it every day 1,000 times. So my point is I hated that life. And so I wanted a way out of it. But of course, I didn't know how to get out of it. I mean, I couldn't go to anybody in my family. They're the ones that are causing this. Right. And so I did the only thing that I knew how to do. Now, you don't have to hang around me more than 30 seconds to know that I'm a nerd, right? I'm just a total nerd. I'm really the nerdiest nerd in this industry. And what I mean by that is I like to just tear things down to their component part, break things down to their, molecular level, and then find out what's missing, what people aren't telling us, where the gaps are, and then I fill in the gaps. I can't rest until I've done that. And so I just did the only thing that I knew to do, which is I went to the library and just started reading books on self-help, personal growth, spiritual growth, all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, all the classics that we know and love. And so I really, really tried to make those things work. I really, I worked at it. I was working hard, just like my parents were, or what I saw them do. And yet I could never seem to make it work. So at the age of 25, I was very depressed, had been working really, really hard for many, many years. The great quarterback, Tom Brady, had a great quote. And he said that, when you have struggle and sacrifice and you have success, that causes satisfaction. But when you have hard work and sacrifice and you don't have success, that causes depression. And I'm like, well, I was definitely in the second camp. I was working hard, but I didn't have any success. And I was, struggling and sacrificing, but I just didn't have success. So at the age of 25, I decided to commit suicide. I just was very tired of this life. And I said, people would be happier if I wasn't here anyway. Nobody's going to care anyway. And so I decided to take my own life. Now, I tell that full story in one of my books, the book of affirmations here, the one that, one of the ones that you mentioned earlier. But anyway, my point is, long story short, at the very last moment, my life was spared. And I didn't know why, but I didn't take my life. And then I decided to, after that experience, I decided to devote the rest of my life to serving God and serving humanity as best I could while I was on the earth. The only problem was I still didn't know I was here on the earth. I still didn't know, what's my mission, what's my purpose here on earth. And so it took me another 5 years to really come to the realization and having the two main epiphanies that really changed my life and has led to the creation, not only of my 14 books, but all of my different online programs that we have, my live events, my keynote speaking that I get to do all around the world. And really, more importantly, has helped so many people around the world to really change their lives, meaning that, my clients and my students have, doubled or tripled their income. We've got people who are building multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses. We've got people who've gotten their books published, gotten their online programs for the first time. Also, we've helped people lose weight. We've helped people find love. We've saved marriages. We also help kids, maybe struggling with self-esteem or their grades, getting better grades. Also helping veterans and their families who are struggling with PTSD. That's a really, really big, mission that we have here at successclinic.com, my company. So long story short, it was really, it was a very long, painful journey that mostly sucked. But, the beginning part totally sucked. But these last 20 years have been pretty awesome, So now I have built a multiple 7-figure business working from my home. So now what's really nice is using the strategies that I share with my clients and, at my speaking events and at my own live events. And we have a live event called Freedom Lifestyle Experience, which is a 3-day transformational experience where I teach my inner game and outer game secrets that help people to build multiple 6- and 7-figure lifestyle businesses. So you can have that time freedom, that financial freedom, and that location freedom. So it's a pretty amazing feeling when you're lying on the beach and, money's coming in to your bank account because of things that you built. I mean, it's the classic internet marketing cliche, but it's really true. When you put it together, when you put the things together, it really does work. What's so amazing though is that a lot of people come to me after spending tens of thousands of dollars with, all the other gurus, the big names and all the famous dudes, and yet they're still stuck. And so that's why, because I'm such a nerd, that's why people come to me, because they say to me all the time, no, I hear you're the guy that helps people get unstuck after, they've tried everything. And then they're like, I've tried everything. Can you help me get unstuck? And it's like, well, if you follow the system, yeah. So it's really not about me. It's about the system that really helps people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm real curious because for me, and I've read literally thousands of books, and I've gone through lots of courses, and I've got master hypnotists, all that stuff myself. But when I read that about giving yourself permission to be more successful than your parents, when I read that, that was like, oh my gosh, this is a huge epiphany. And that was, like I said, about 10 years ago that I read that. And since then, what I've recognized is how entangled we get in our beliefs. And of course, for me, when I had that paradigm shift from reading your book, it was like, that might mean that if I become more successful than my parents, then I might lose what I've always wanted from my parents. And it wasn't really, it's interesting how we use, as most of our imprint years are 0 to 7, right? Which is when all the programming and the conditioning is taking place. And I don't think my parents ever said the words, I don't want you to be successful, but I listened to them talk about successful people and their bosses and things like that. And it was almost like I felt like they despised them. And then that's what I wanted to become, which would equal, so I'm curious was there something that you can remember that you could articulate that really helped you come to understand that how impactful that was to write about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the book that you're talking about, by the way, is called Permission to Succeed. That's the book that you're holding up there, and I love it. That to an author, there's nothing better than that. To see that somebody actually read the thing and like, oh, they marked it up. It's like, thank you, somebody paid some attention. Yay! It's always exciting. So the story behind that book is really the story of my company and the story of why I'm still here more than 20 years later, having helped people make millions and millions of dollars. So back in 1997, I was a struggling, broke college student. I was a religious studies major in college. Now, this was my second time in college because the first time I went when I was 18, and I decided to become a professional ballet dancer. Not belly dancer, ballet dancer. And some people make that mistake. And so, yes, I am the only former professional ballet dancer who's also a keynote speaker and best-selling author. I'm pretty sure I'm the only male person that can say that at least in this industry. That's pretty awesome. So this was my second time in college, 10 years after that, when I was a religious studies major. Now, one day I went to a seminar on eating disorders. Now, because I was a former professional ballet dancer, I knew a lot of people who had eating disorders, right? Now, I personally didn't have one, but, it was a free seminar, and I was like, hey, maybe I'll learn something. It was an author who was visiting the town, and I said, hey, maybe, because I'm like, yeah, I'm curious about it. Why not? Right. And so I went to the seminar, and the speaker was talking about why people develop eating disorders. Like the sort of the personality imprint of that person. And the speaker was saying, well, they tend to have very low self-esteem, and they tend to think that, they don't deserve success, or they don't deserve to be here on the earth sometimes. And, they are, punishing themselves, and they feel like they deserve to be punished. And I'm going, check, 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 check. I'm like, wait a minute. That sounds, everything you just said is me. And then I'm going, well, then why didn't I develop an eating disorder, right? I mean, it's a logical question. If I check all the boxes, then why didn't I develop an eating disorder? And that's when the epiphany that changed my life happened. I was sitting there in a seminar. It was October 20th, 1997. When your life changes, you tend to remember where it was. And I realized something that really changed my life and has led to, as I mentioned, all this work and all the money and that I've helped people make, and all the weight, everything I've helped people to the health and everything like that. So the point is, here's this. Women for centuries, really since the beginning of time, have been told that their worth comes from their physical bodies. Now, of course, that is not where a woman's worth comes from, right? We all know that. And yet that's where women are told their worth comes from, right? I think we can all agree on that. I mean, and ads, and I mean, you know, it's everywhere. It's just everywhere. Again, being clear that that is not where a woman's worth comes from, but that's what she's told from the time she's 0, right? And so if a person who's told that their worth comes from their physical bodies and they want to punish themselves, what's the perfect place or way to punish yourself? Well, you starve yourself of food. That's a great way to do it, right? Because that way you're punishing the very place that you're told your worth comes from. I hope everybody's with me on that. So that made perfect sense to me in my head. And then I said, okay, well, that's women. What about men? Because last time I checked, I'm a man, not a woman. So what does that mean? So I said, well, where are men told that their worth comes from? Well, it's obvious that men are told their worth comes from success, money, wealth, status, material possessions, right? That's where men are taught and have been taught since the beginning of time their worth comes from. Again, keeping in mind, that's not where a man's worth comes from either, right? So both sexes are told this lie. Women are told a lie that their worth comes from their body. Men are told a lie that their worth comes from their possessions. We're all told lies, right? My point is that if you happen to be a man and you were told since day 0 that your worth comes from your possessions, or what I call your material body, to distinguish it from your physical body, then what's a great way to punish yourself? Well, you just sabotage your success. And I'm like, holy crap. I just discovered my entire life. I just identified exactly what's been happening for my entire life that no one has ever talked about ever. Because I've read every book too, Jeff. I read every freaking book. And here's what they said. Because look, I knew I was sabotaging my success. I read books called How to Stop Self-Sabotage. Do you know what the book said? How to Stop Self-Sabotage? You know what the treatment was? If you're sabotaging yourself, don't do that. Wow, that's really helpful. Thanks, dude. Yeah. Oh, why didn't I think of that?
Right.
You know, it is exactly like saying to someone who has anorexia, well, hey, why don't you just eat?
Right.
Duh. I mean, that's the biggest duh you could ever have, right? So it was the same exact thing for sabotage. Hey, well, just stop doing that, dummy. Are you serious? But yeah, that was the only treatment until I came along with my discovery. So I said, wait a second. Wait a minute, they are talking about all the wrong stuff and it's totally not helping. Hence my experience. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I said, wait a second, I just discovered something that I have to give a name to. And so because I discovered something no one ever looked at. No one had ever identified what just popped into my head in that second, in that epiphany, in that seminar, October 20th, 1997. And so the name, I had to give this condition a name, and I named it success anorexia. Success anorexia. That is, in fact, what millions and millions of people are unknowingly starving or suffering from, is a condition no one ever talked about. And so the first place that ever on the earth that it was talked about is in that book that's in your hand, Permission to Succeed, my book. And now this is the newest book, which you also mentioned. I'm having to do this because I don't think you can see much of me. So
Yeah.
But anyway, it's called The Secret Code to Success, or Secret
Code of Success.
Secret Code of Success. Thank you. I should know the title of my book, Secret Code too. Everybody does that. See, so many people say it, and no, it's Secret Code of Success. Anyway, secretcodebook.com is where you can get this book, secretcodebook.com, and I'll give you a $200 gift package when you buy this book on Amazon at secretcodebook.com. If you want to put that in the chat or type that in the show notes or whatever, or in the in our notes here. But anyway, secretcodebook.com. So I tell that story, the story I just shared with you, right in the first 3 chapters. That is what changed my life. And then, so the point is, when I realized that I had been starving myself of success my entire life without any awareness of this, of course, right? All of this happens in the subconscious, just like someone who has anorexia. It's not like someone who has anorexia gets up in the morning and says, you know what I think would be fun? Let's starve myself today.
Right.
You know, I mean, let's punish myself because I know I deserve to be. Nobody's thinking that. They're not thinking it consciously necessarily, right? Just like nobody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, this looks like a great day. You know what? I think I'll sabotage my success today. Won't that be great? Nobody says that. Do you see what I'm saying? So the point is, it all happens in the subconscious mind, but that's the point. Because it's in the subconscious, it's so powerful, you can't even see it. So the point is, I realized that for my whole life, I had been holding myself back from the level of success I was perfectly capable of in order to not have my father not like me. All right. I wanted to get my father's approval, and he wasn't successful. Okay. And I'm not speaking out of school here. He and I have had this conversation. And, you know, I mean, that's the story I tell in the very first chapter of Permission to Succeed, the book that's in your hand. Yeah. And so when I realized that, wait a minute, I've been holding myself back all these years to not upset the old man and to have him approve of me or not have him disapprove of me, which is not necessarily the same thing. Right. Okay, so I called him. That's the story I shared with in that book. I said, hey, Dad, would it be okay if I were more successful than you? I literally just called him up. Now, we didn't have a really good relationship at that time. I mean, let's be honest. You know, now, look, I'm a proud stepdad, all right? My wife has 3 kids. They're awesome kids. They're older, you know, but so I didn't have to go through the diaper phase and everything. Everybody says I was really smart. I'm like, hey, man, you know, we whatever. We do what we do. But my point is, I get it as a, you know, a stepdad, that what my father must have gone through with actual children, you know, little kids, which is the fact that, dude, you're last. The dad comes last. Come on, let's be honest. Dads are last. You know, it's, you know, the kids and then you, if you're lucky, you know. And honestly, that's the way it should be. That's totally right. Because, hey, man, you got to take care of the kids. We got to have the progeny and all that stuff, you know. So I get it that my father basically probably didn't want me around that much. You know, I don't blame the guy. I was really, I mean, I needed a lot of attention as a kid. I was sick all the time. I had colic, you know, I was in the hospital just for months, literally months at a time. So he's probably like, when's this guy moving out? You know, it's been, you know, so I get it. So my point is, when I called him that day, and this is a true story. I mean, share that story in the book. I called him up and I said, Dad, would it be okay with you if I were more successful than you? Because for my whole life, I had been unknowingly, unconsciously holding myself down so as not to get his disapproval. I still got his disapproval anyway, which shouldn't be any surprise. Right. But I said, well, let's see, if I just stay down, maybe he will disapprove of me less. Well, all that did was cause me to want to kill myself. So that really didn't work, right? And so I called him up and I asked him that. And to my father's great credit, which I still give him credit for, he said, Noah, of course I want you to be more successful than me. He literally said, please be much more successful than me. So he handled it perfectly in that moment. I mean, let's be honest, that was totally out of left field. Who the hell calls up and says, hey, Dad, can I be more successful? I mean, he was like, what? But he recovered very quickly. And to his great credit, and I always remember that, that's why I wanted to give him credit in the book. He said, absolutely, Noah, please be far more successful than me. Because he knew that he wasn't very successful. I mean, you know, we get it. And he got it. So that was awesome. Now, I do have a story. And because that book that you have there, Permission to Succeed, has been out for, actually, coming up is its 20th anniversary. So it was first published in 1998 when I self-published the book. And then the Chicken Soup People, as you mentioned in your introduction, you know, I'm the only author in history that's been published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Mindvalley, Simon & Schuster, Nightingale Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul Publisher. So the Chicken Soup People published that in 1999. So we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of this. Well, you know, years ago, I had a woman call me, one of my clients. She called me, and she heard me speak at one of my seminars, and she said that she read that book, you know, read that story, Permission to Succeed. She called her father, who was in England. She was living in Denver, and father was in England, and you know, she cried when she read that story of mine. And then because it affected her a lot. It's a very emotional subject that nobody talks about. And so anyway, she called her father and said, Dad, would it be okay if I were more successful than you? Because she realized the same thing that I did, that I was holding, you know, she had been holding herself back to please her father, or what she thought would please her father, right? And of course, her father said the same thing my dad, of course, be more successful than me, you know, and what happened was, the woman told me, my client said that her father died the next week. That was the last time they ever spoke. And he gave her permission to succeed before he passed away. So what an incredible story. What an amazing legacy. Imagine if they hadn't had that conversation and he would have died with her thinking, oh, I should hold myself down to make him happy. You see what I mean? See, these kind of things affect people in enormous, but almost invisible ways.
Yeah,
and that's the main reason that I do my work, or one of the big reasons I do my work, so that we can give the world permission to succeed.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with T. Harv Eker and been to his, you know, because I know you're a mutual friend of ours is Mike Koenig's. So I thinking about T. Harv Eker's thing about I hereby deem permission for you to succeed. But this resonated so much more because you put the dad conversation in there. And I had just before I had read your book, I had gone through a 3-year curriculum of men's fraternity, of basically learning how to be a good godly man. And one of the conversations that they suggested you do is you go have a conversation with your dad and say, are you proud of me? Are you proud of me? And it's amazing just how powerful that is of us wanting to have that, the Father's blessing, which has been taught for millenniums, right? About how powerful the Father's blessing is. And so I, you know, and how many people that I've coached and watched being coached and things like that, how many people are doing things that are not aligned with who they truly are because they're missing that element. So what would you suggest on somebody like that, you know, really getting in touch with being aligned to the truth? Because go answer that first. I got another question after that.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, so going back to my discovery of success anorexia, all right. So I am the person that discovered it, that named it, and that has now worked with more people on the earth than anybody else on the earth to help people overcome success anorexia. I mean, I'm the guy that literally wrote the book and then 14 or 13 more books on the subject. So my point is, when I had that discovery back in 1997, I literally sat there like this. And I walked around for about a month like this. You know, like Moses coming down from the mountain, like, oh my God, I got it. And my friends were like, are you all right? I'm going, yeah, I figured out my whole life. I don't know what to do now. What do I do? I didn't know what to do. And so I said, well, I got to write a book. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I got to write a book. I mean, this is pretty huge. Because I always see, going back even many years, I love, you know, when I shared with you that I just went to the library and was always reading books on spiritual growth, personal growth. I always wanted to be an author. I always wanted to be a speaker. I made a commitment even a long time ago, before any of this. I said, I want to be an author. I want to be a speaker. I want to help people. I want to make an impact around the world. But I don't want to say what everybody else is saying. I will not do that. I refuse to do that because, look, those of us who are seminar junkies and self-help junkies, which I'm assuming is pretty much everybody watching this program. Right. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody says the same damn thing, right? I mean, just everybody says the same thing. Set your goals and think positive and you can do it. And not, I mean, okay. And they tell the same stories over and over, the starfish story. And I mean, my God, we just heard them all a million times. And we're like, yeah, I got it. Okay, thank you, you know. And it's just so aggravating, honestly, because, you know, maybe the first time or but after 100 and 200 of the same, everybody's saying the same damn thing. You're like, good God, come on, people. Is that it? And that's what was so important to me, was to not say the same thing everybody else. But it's hard to come up with something original. Let's be honest. I mean, it really is. It's hard to come up with. That's why everybody repeats the same thing, because it's easy to do that. It's all just say the same thing. Okay. You know, you were just regurgitating what you heard somebody say. And that's the problem. One of the problems in this industry, because everybody is saying the same thing and nobody's really getting better. I shouldn't say nobody, but, you know, what the point is, one of the phrases that we have at Success Clinic is, there's no lack of information, but there's definitely a lack of transformation, right? Mm-hmm. And we're drowning in information, but where's the transformation? And more importantly, where's the implementation, right? And so that's why when, like, for example, when people come to our live events, our 3-day Freedom Lifestyle Experience, we're all about transformation and implementation. Yes, of course, there's information. You know, there's probably some missing pieces in there for many people, but the point is, it's about the transformation that's going to occur when you implement the information. Does that make sense? So it's not about just getting more and more information. So when I realized what I did, you know, had my epiphany, I discovered Success Anorexia, I said, I got to write a book. And I had, the irony of that is that prior to that moment, up until that date, October 20th, I had actually been working on a book, another book totally unrelated. It was a book on spiritual principles in leadership. I wanted to write a leadership book, you know, because again, I knew I wanted to be a speaker and an author. And I'll tell you what, Jeff, I had been writing the outline of that book for 6 months. I'd been writing the outline for 6 months. I hadn't even started writing the stupid book. I was just like, and I was totally blocked, you know, and I'm like, but I just got to figure this out. And I was like, oh my God. And then the minute I discovered Success Anorexia, I said, oh my gosh, this is I got it. This is my purpose on the earth. This is my mission. I thank you. I said, thank you, God. I don't know why I said this to God. I said, I don't know why you gave me this mission, but I will make you a promise that I will never stop. I'll never, ever stop, because I know that there are millions of people just like me who need this message. I knew that. I mean, I know I couldn't be the only one. I knew there had to be millions of people. Emerson said, what is most personal is most universal. Since this was so personal, I knew it had to be totally universal. Right. So I sat down and I said, okay, God, now I got the problem. I've named the problem. Now, how do I fix the problem? Right? Because it's one thing to say, you know what your problem is, right? So you go to the doctor and say, hey, doctor, you know, my shoulder hurts. And he goes, yeah, your shoulder's out of alignment. Okay, next. Wait, what? Can you fix the thing? Right? Oh, no, we don't do that. We just tell you what's wrong. I mean, come on. Right? But isn't that true? That's a lot of times that happens out there, you know. Yep, got a problem. Okay, I'm being a little facetious, but not much. Anyway, you get my point. And so I said, okay, I got to fix this, right? Yay, I understand the problem now. And that's, I mean, you could argue that that's, you know, halfway there. I mean, you know, just identifying the problem itself, yes, is a big, huge thing. Yes. Especially when it's something so unique like Success Anorexia, something that no one had ever looked at in this way before. See, Dale Carnegie said, we don't want totally new information, and we don't want really old information either. What we want is something new about the old, right? And I think that's very accurate, because look, sabotaging yourself or holding yourself back from success, that's nothing new, right? Humans have been doing that since there have been humans. Right. But having this kind of awareness and the technology and the methodology to actually stop doing that, that's actually what is new, which I created. So the point is, I sat down and I said, okay, God, how do you fix this? And I just sat at my Apple computer and I just listened. I said, okay. And then it was like I was taking dictation, honestly. It was like I was listening and I just heard it and it just went right through me. And I wrote that book you're holding, in 2 weeks. I wrote it in 2 weeks. Wow. I remember I'd been writing an outline for 6 months. Right. And that book took me 2 weeks. Okay. So what does that tell you? It tells you that I was channeled in, right? So for all of you watching and listening who, you know, think you might have a book in you, 80% of American adults say that they would like to write a book, right? So I know a lot of people watching, I'm sure, have a book in them. Well, so that's one of the things that I do, is I help my clients to find that in them, you know, to find that part of them that they can, it seems like channeling, if you'll forgive that word, but that's what it felt like. And when you're just in that flow state, a lot of, you know, authors and people talk about that flow. I was absolutely in the flow. The irony is I actually wrote it in 5 days. I really wrote it in 5 days, because what I did was I bet myself, I like to do this. I like to bet with myself. I said, I bet you can't write this book in 2 weeks. I said that to me. There wasn't anybody else there. I said, you know, you talk to yourself much? No, I don't know. What? Shut up. Give me a chance. What? Okay. Anyway. Anyway, so I said, I bet you can't. Oh yeah, I'll show you. So I wrote it in 5 days, took 4 days off, you know, and then I edited it for 5 days, 14 days, book's done. That's basically the book you're holding in your hand. They really didn't edit that much at the Chicken Soup people. They didn't need to. And the same thing kind of happened with Secret Code of Success. This is the updated version of that book you're holding. So the Secret Code of Success was published by HarperCollins. That's one of the ones that I mentioned. And what's so funny is I was so nervous sending this in, because the manuscript to this book, because HarperCollins and Collins, specifically Collins Business, it's a business, you know, publisher. Like their biggest title is Good to Great by Jim Collins. So I'm sure a lot of people have read that, you know, watching and read that book, right? Good to Great. So I'm like, oh man, this is too woo-woo. They're going to say, no, this is stupid. You know, what are you doing here, man? You're out in left field. I was so nervous. And then I sent in the manuscript and I'm like, you know, and then my editor wrote back and she goes, yep, looks like we're all set. Maybe just a few changes here and there. I was like, I fainted dead away. I was like, wow, really? You got it? And she totally got it. And that was a great feeling.
So does this still have the story of your dad in the new?
I did not put the story of my dad in that one, because I felt like I had already told that story in Permission to Succeed. So no, that story isn't in there, because, you know, I like to keep things fresh and new. So, you know, what this book does is the updated version of Permission to Succeed. But many people have told me over the years that they like both books together, that they, you know, they feel it's a nice compendium and they go together well. as a lot of people.
I love it. So I got a lot of my followers are entrepreneurs, network marketers, coaches, people like that. And you say, I want to talk about this other book that I mentioned in your introduction. It says, you say head trash is the #1 reason why entrepreneurs feel stuck. So what is head trash, and how does it keep us stuck?
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to go to this book. Am I holding up too many books? I mean, I can't tell. I'm sorry, I write so many books. I mean, it's aggravating. But anyway, so we're talking about this book now, Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money. And by the way, the subtitle is How to Avoid the 3 Big Money Mistakes Even Smart People Make. And we do want to let your viewers know where they can get this book for free, right, Jeff? So we can let them know about that, because this book is available for free. We just ask you to cover the shipping charge, but I've covered the cost of this book, so we can give out that link. Yep. So basically what happened is, after, all these books that I published and, working with so many people around the world, helping people make, millions of dollars, people would write to me on social media or our website and say, hey, I hear you're the guy that helps people get rid of their head trash. And they go, I feel like I've got lots of head trash, and I feel stuck, and I feel overwhelmed. I'm feeling frustrated. I've spent all this money and all this time and all this effort. I've gone to every seminar. How come I'm still stuck? So I started hearing this over and over and over and over again. So I'm going, okay, we've got an epidemic out there, and I've got the solution for that. So what are we talking about here? So I realized that one of the things that causes stuckness, right? Because remember, I'm the nerd, right? I got to understand what causes the thing and then fix it. Well, so the point is, being stuck or feeling stuck, right? We've all had that feeling of feeling stuck or feeling overwhelmed. That's the other big thing we're hearing. Oh man, I'm overwhelmed, right? And so I said to myself, okay, self, what causes stuckness, right? #1, what causes this thing? Well, first of all, what is it? What causes it? And then the third question, which is also most important, is how do I fix it, right? Because I've got to fix the thing. It's not enough to say, oh, yep, you're stuck. Okay, get unstuck now. Yeah. Anyway, I can't handle that. Anyway, so the point is, I said, okay, what's causing stuckness? So what I realized is that for the majority of people, and I mean, there are other factors involved, but for the majority of people, what's causing stuckness, certainly one of the big factors, is what I call your head trash. Now, what is head trash? So head trash is that voice in your head that says, I can't do it because ... And then you just fill in the blank. Well, I can't do it because I'm too old. I can't do it because I don't have the time. I can't do it because I don't have the money. I can't do it because I've made too many mistakes. I can't do it because I'm a woman. I can't do it because I didn't go to college, or I didn't go to the right college, or I don't live in the right city, or my parents did this to me, or whatever, blah, 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 right? Now, here's the thing, right? So we've heard this before in terms of we all have these excuses. That's what I call your head trash. But here's the thing. It's much more diabolical than that. Why? Because you always make yourself right. You always make yourself right. We humans have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. All right. So if you're saying to yourself, for example, well, Noah, you don't understand. I can't do it because I don't have the time, right? And whatever it is, right? I want to write a book, or I want to grow my business. I want to get more clients. I want to lose weight. I want to be happy. I want to find love. Remember, we're kind of like duct tape. We fix everything. All right. So because think about this for a minute, everybody watching. So where don't your beliefs affect you? Where don't your beliefs affect you? Well, they affect everything, right? It's impossible to look at a place where your beliefs don't affect you, right? They affect your health. They affect your finances. Beliefs affect your business. They affect your relationships, your relationship with your spouse, with your kids, your family, your friends, social media. They affect, your ability to grow. And there's no place your beliefs don't affect you. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Your head trash is your beliefs. I can't do it because. So if you say, no, you don't understand. I can't do it because I don't have the time. Well, guess what? You'll find you don't have the time. Meanwhile, I can prove to you that Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, and I have the same amount of time as you do. Everybody has the same amount of time. We all have the same 24 hours, right? I can also show you that, if some emergency happens in your life, all of a sudden you have the time, right? Somebody ends up in the hospital or something happens, and oh my gosh, guess what? You just found the time. You made the time. Right. So it's a lie to tell yourself, I don't have the time. That's a lie. And you also say, well, no, I don't have the money. Really? And you're spending what on lattes every month? Mm-hmm. And you're spending it on watching TV. Now, I'm not saying, so you're saying I should never have fun? No, I'm saying you have what is in your life to be rich right now. But it's the annoying things that we don't want to give up. It's doing the things that rich people do, right? That successful people do. If you want to be successful, you have to model successful people. We've all heard that a million times. But the point is, because you make yourself right, you're telling yourself all the reasons you can't do it. And oh, lo and behold, you make yourself right. So what we're showing in this book, and all my books really, is to just question that guy. Really? Is it really true that I don't have the money? Is it really true I don't have the time? Is it really true that I'm not good enough? Maybe I need to stop listening to that guy that's brought me to where I am today and start listening to a new voice that says maybe I can do it.
Right, right. Well, and you mentioned something that you were going to religious studies, and I have a question for this one.
Yeah.
So you're going into religious studies, and I'm assuming that you felt that you were called by had your calling from God or whatever that was to go into that, and then now you're going in a different direction. So what was that? What was that like? I mean, obviously you're going to religious studies, and then there had to have been, I'm assuming, making an assumption here, that there were beliefs around success in religion, and that kind of got convoluted as well. So talks about what that experience was about.
Yeah, there's a lot of parts to that, Jeff. And before I answer that question, I want to make sure that we're answering, because I'm seeing a lot of comments come in from our viewers here. I want to, if people have questions, I'm happy to answer those. And also, maybe we should give out that link for where they can get the book for free. Is there any way to put that in the comments? Because I don't have any.
Yeah, we'll keep the show. I'll put it down in the comments after the show. Okay,
great. All right. So anyway, I'll just say it now. It's sendmeabooknoah.com. You can go right now if you want. Send me a book, Noah. Sendmeabooknoah.com. Yes, and I will do that thing. I will send you a book, Noah. Send me a book, Noah.com. All right. So anyway, because I know folks are wondering about that. Anyway, okay. So in terms of the religious studies, I would always, once I got on that path, I would say to God, do you want me to be a minister? Do you want me to be a priest? Am I supposed to go into the ministry? And I never got a yes on that. You know, I just felt very connected to God's source, you know, just to my own intuition. And I never got a yes. I'm like, okay, well, great. What am I supposed to do? Then when I discovered Success Anorexia, I realized, aha, okay, this is my ministry. I want the world ministry. I want to help, you know, fix the planet. And so that's what became my ministry. Now, this was very right at the very beginning of the internet. I mean, remember, 1997, I started my company, my college dorm room in 1997 with $800 in a book on how to do HTML. So, I mean, I didn't have anything, and I didn't have any business experience, marketing, sales, online. I mean, social media was sitting around the TV watching with your friends. That's what social media meant at that time. There was no social media. There was no Facebook, YouTube, blogging, none of that. So it was basically just me and Al Gore back then. I mean, that was it, you know. So anyway, I'm glad you got that joke. My point is that I just had to figure it out as I went. But see, I had a mission. I know a lot of people watching this program have a mission, you know, have a why to, have a really strong desire to help people, but maybe just don't know how to do it. So that's one of the things that we do, you know, with my books, with my online programs, with our live events at Freedom Lifestyle Experience. You know, that's what we do, is we help people who have a mission, but just need some help to get there. So the other part of that was that I was very consciously following in the footsteps of Dr. Stephen Covey. Dr. Stephen Covey wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. When I first read that book, it was in the mid 90s, and I was at a very low point in my life, and I still didn't have my direction in life. And I found that book and read it. It really changed my life. It affected me very deeply. And then I decided to go back to college and study religious studies, which is what he did. So I was very consciously following in his footsteps because I wanted to carry on. You know, I wanted to be like him. And so what was awesome was I got to interview him before he sadly passed away a few years ago. And I asked him a question that I never forgot the answer to. And I said to him, Dr. Covey, how do you handle it when people worship you? You know, when they just think you're just so amazing, and because this was before my discovery and everything like that. So I didn't have any of my books. I just knew I wanted to do it. I wanted to be in that industry like he was. And he said something I never forgot, and that I've tried to emulate since that time. He said, Noah, I want people to leave my seminars more impressed with themselves than with me. And I thought that was one of the most powerful things I had ever heard. And so you see out on social media, you can't turn on Facebook now without, some guy saying, hey, look at my cool car, and look at my this, and look at my shiny object, and woohoo, aren't I awesome? It's like, yeah, dude, you're awesome. Have you helped anyone else, or is it all about your shiny objects? And that's the thing. Listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. We all want nice things. But my point is, when you're looking for a mentor, you really need to look for 3 things. I'm talking to all the people watching here. Because, look, we all need mentors. I've interviewed over 100 millionaires, multimillionaires. Every single one of them had a mentor. We all need mentors. So the first thing you need to do is, are they where you want to be? The problem is, that's the easy part. Hey, do they have cool things? Do they have a lot of money? Yeah, everybody's got, shiny objects. The second point is most important. Have they helped anyone else get it? Or is it all about themselves? See, that's what we call at successclinic.com. We call that difference between personality-driven success and system-driven success. If it's personality-driven, it's all about that guy's personality. If it's system-driven, it's about everybody. See, there's two kinds of people in this industry: the look at me guys and the look at us guys. Look at me guys is all about me. Hey, look at me, aren't I awesome? Yeah, dude, you're awesome. Have you helped anyone else? And usually it's, so the point is, what we like to talk, I'd rather talk about my client's success, my student's success. That's why we have on our website, we have our results page. It's workingwithnoah.com. You can go to that page right now, workingwithnoah.com, and you'll see dozens of success stories. I'd rather talk about my client's success because otherwise you don't have a system.
Right.
So that's the second element. And then the third thing is, will they actually help you? Will that client or will that mentor actually help you get to where you want to go? Not where they want to go, but where you want to go. And that's why, I've been doing this for over 20 years. There's really nobody in the industry that has a track record of helping people make millions of dollars like I have. And that's what you want to look for. So, whether you work with us, whether you work with me, whether you work with someone else, I just really highly recommend for everybody watching that those are the three criteria you use when you're looking for a mentor, when you find a mentor.
Yeah. And there's a highlighted area here that I put in this book here. And it says, instead of trying to impress, I made a decision to be impressed. Instead of trying to be fascinating, I made a decision to be fascinated. I switched from trying to be the center of attention to being the giver of attention. And you guessed what happened. I finally began to win friends and influence, and my friends actually calling me. And that's one of the highlighted areas that I put in there, and it was just like, wow. And it was really, really impactful. There's a question here that I would like to ask you while we have you here live.
Sure.
Dan here asks, what happens when the head and heart trash are in alignment? That's a great question. I would love to hear your response on that one.
Head and heart trash are not in alignment?
Yeah, when they are in alignment. It says, what happens when head...
I would have to take issue with heart trash. I don't believe there is heart trash. In fact, I would argue that it is our head that gets us in trouble because it's fear-based, right? We live in a fear-based culture. I mean, you can't turn on the TV or go on social media. It's a fear, and everything's out to get you, and it's like, oh my God. So the point is, the fear, the amygdala in the brain is that little part of the brain. It's about the size of a walnut, and it basically says, you're gonna die. Watch out! There could be a bear, a lion, and we're always on fight or flight, and so that's just easy to turn on. Marketers do that. The news media, they do it because they want you to watch the thing, right? They just keep hitting that amygdala. So you keep watching, which, most millions of people do, sadly. Mm-hmm. But the heart is about love. And so I don't think there is heart trash. I think the heart is what I was talking about earlier, our connection to God, source, universe, our intuition. And so, we can get all messed up. Absolutely. Between the conversation there, but I don't think there's heart trash. I think head trash tells us that I can't do it because meanwhile, the heart is saying, but I really want to, but can I do this? No, shut up. You're not good enough. And it's like, that's my point is that as a mentor, look, the absolute truth here is as a mentor, because, I've gotten to coach and mentor. Now we work with celebrities and CEOs and working moms and people in network marketing. And we've helped people build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses while working less. 75% of my job is just believing in people. Literally 75% of my job is just, you can't really see, but behind me, it says that I have a thing that says, I believe in you, because that's my, for those of you who subscribe to my email newsletter, I end every newsletter with that. I believe in you, because that's what I wish somebody would have said to me many years ago. Nobody ever did. But, like you were talking about earlier about your father being proud of you. Mm-hmm. I wish somebody would have said, I believe in you, because that's what I needed to hear. And I never heard it. So now I'm the person that says it. But 75% of the work that I do with clients is just believing them. Like I was saying earlier, helping them make more money and getting their books published. And we had a doctor, a chiropractor from Canada, one of my clients, Inner Circle clients. And she said, actually what happened was she said, I want to make more money. And I said, okay. And she said, well, I want more patients. I said, well, do you realize that you could have online programs and books and things like that? She said, oh, no, I could never do that. No. I just, I'm a chiropractor. I said, okay. Okay, you can do that. But what's so funny is her husband was listening to me talking and he looked at her and said, Noah's right. You need to listen to what Noah's saying here. And she's okay. The point is she just didn't believe she could do it, right? Now she's just published her first book. She's got online programs. She's doing her own live events. And that all came, you know, again, I'm not taking credit for that, but the point is I believed in her. I had to believe in her before she believed in herself. So that's another quality of a mentor that I think we all need to look for.
Yeah, and there's one question, and we're getting close to the top of the hour, but I wanted to ask this question. It's been in the back of my head. So what does somebody do if they can't get the permission from their parents? What would you recommend on something like that? If their parents are passed or they don't have a relationship with
that's why we have my system. That's what I talked about earlier, is that it is about systems. Okay, so in Secret Code, I give you what's called the Power Habits Pyramid right here. See, that is the pyramid. So I'm well aware that for many people, you know, their parents have passed away and they can't physically say that to them. And so the point is I give you the steps to do that, right? Because the point is you probably have people in your life who do believe in you, but you haven't activated it yet because, of course, no one's told you, number one, that it's important, and no one's shown you how to do it. So I'm the guy that does that. That's, you know, a big part of what I do, as I mentioned, is to believe in you. But it's not just me. You know, I show you how to actually get other people to believe in you. And it's not about being selfish and, just, you know, it's all about me and whatever. People get weird about that too. But I walk you through that whole process. So we have that in the Secret Code of Success. We also have it in our online program called Money Mindset Mastery. And I also do that in our live event called Freedom Lifestyle Experience. You can go to freedomlifex.com and check out our live event, Freedom Life X, like letter X, freedomlifex.com. That's our next event is in November in Las Vegas, and it's a 3-day transformational event. So you can master the inner game and outer game of success. You can have that freedom lifestyle that really we all want.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I teach my clients, and you talk about beliefs a lot, and I just want to have you end with this one thought, or how your thought is on it. Why people hang on to beliefs and have such a hard time letting them go, especially if it's not serving them, is that they created that belief. So really getting in touch with the fact that we have a relationship with this belief. What would you suggest on getting people to embrace the whole concept of letting and surrendering beliefs that don't work anymore? Is there anything that you could leave with a thought on that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's a big part of what I've been doing for the last 2 decades, you know, and 14 books and live events and speaking and all of that. So really the point is, you just said it, you know, the reason that we hold on to our beliefs so hard is because we created them in the first place. And we got lots and lots of evidence to back it up, right? And we've got evidence, even if it doesn't serve us, even if the belief is I'm not good enough. Right. That's the number one belief I believe in human beings. I'm not enough, right? And I can't do it because, you know, that is the definition of head trash. And we will hold on to that. And let's be honest, it's easy to hold on to that because it makes your life easy. Well, no, you don't understand. I can't do it because I'm not good enough. And then guess what? You don't have to do anything because see, I just told you. Okay, so to challenge that can be painful. It can really hurt because if I say to you, like that client I was just talking about, well, do you realize that you can do it? That you can write a book, you can have online programs, you know, you can have that freedom lifestyle. And they're like, really? No. And, you know, we have grown men in tears in my seminars sometimes, you know, so that happens because it's a very emotional thing that people have been holding on to for decades in many cases. Right. And so that's okay. You know, we had one gentleman, he stood up and he said, no, I've been studying personal growth for 40 years. And you taught me more in 3 days than I've learned in the previous 40 years. We have him on video saying it. Go to freedomlifex.com. You can watch that video. Wow. I didn't know what he was going to say. He's standing up right there. His name is Bill. I mean, so the point is, that is, we hold on to these beliefs, even if they don't serve us, because we created them. So what we're inviting you to do, and we'll just leave you with this thought, we're inviting you to, number one, look at that belief. Number two, ask yourself if it's serving you. And number three, if it's not serving you, then you just take the steps. I lay them all out. I lay out the steps because I had to go through this myself. I mean, look, for those people who are, you know, maybe feeling low, feeling like, you know, life has beat them up, or feeling stuck or overwhelmed or frustrated, hey, I've been in all those places. That's why I share my story of the fact that I had decided to commit suicide. I wasn't thinking about it. I had decided to do it. I mean, I was at the very, very last moment that my life was spared. So believe me, I know what it's like to feel like there's no point, there's no hope. So I get it. And so, you know, of course, I'm hoping nobody's feeling that way right now. But if you are, you know, or if you know someone who might be, you know, believe me, I've been there. And so the point is, I have built the system that I wish I would have had all those years ago. And it has helped so many people. So you don't have to have those beliefs or hold on to those beliefs that aren't serving you anymore. However, it does take great courage to face that. And so that's why we're here to help you. You know, whether you work with us, whether you work with someone else, just make sure you realize there is help available, and make sure that you follow those 3 steps or those 3 parameters that I gave you earlier of to find the right mentor. Someone who's where you want to be, someone who has a system to help you, and someone who actually helps you. That's what we hope for all of you.
Yeah. Noah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is great, great stuff. So if you could check back and look at some of these comments and comment on them, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated.
Sure.
And by all means, put your links into all of your stuff so that people can get more into it. And I am going to go order my copy of your new book and get it. And I so much appreciate the time you've taken with our followers. I would love to have you back on. Yes. And that book definitely will yeah, I just really appreciate.
Hey, anytime. This is awesome, and I appreciate everything you said. It means a lot to me, and for everybody watching, we'd love to have you on campus, at one of our live events, or working with us, or just getting our books. We'd certainly love to have you as part of the Success Clinic family.
Yeah, and I'll be doing a podcast on this on the Potential Zone podcast and following up with this show. So everybody, thank you so much for being here again, joining me again every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where conversation ignites new possibilities. Have a blessed evening. Again, Noah, thank you so much for being here. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.
Bye.